So I'm doing another commentary for a 24 Algeth'ar Tyrannical. Obviously, as always, the same group that I have been running with. Prot Pally, Disc Priest, and then a warrior swaps between Arms and Fury, and then Pharaoh Druid and me as Frost Mage. I'm hoping I show my talents, but I have a feeling I don't. But otherwise, I'm just running typical single target Tyrannical talents, and I'm running Time Manipulation, no Dragon's Breath. Shower and eat. I was being ethical in this run. I was running both a verse file, and I decided to choose the verse buff because I am scared of both Croth and Vex. So yeah. We are deciding to go Vex first because basically it's if you get past Vex, that's whether or not you time the key or not. Well, you obviously need to get past the bird boss too, but tree boss isn't a challenge, and the last boss isn't really a challenge, it's just a time sink. Obviously, symbol AoE, well, the AoE rotation here. Trying to keep Thundering as long as possible, just because, you know, I'll take a 30% damage buff in AoE. I should be dropping my rune here. Yeah, I do it. I should have done it sooner, but... Blast Wave, just as many casts as possible. We have enough AoE CCs, Intimidating Shout, Blast Wave, Incap, or whatever the Druid Roars card, I forget what it's called. But now we have two just Giga Bolstered things. This is probably the scariest mob to have. Giga Bolstered is the Severing Slash, because that's the only thing the tank can actually die to. Everyone else can die to a Surge, but like, if your tank dies, it's kind of big uh-oh. We also are going this way because this guarantees Lust for both Vex and Croth, which are obviously the two most dangerous Tyrannical bosses. If you go Tree Boss first, it kind of makes you Lust on the Trash Pack instead of on the boss, which is kind of not great on Tyrannical weeks, but it's kind of whatever. And obviously now we're doing a little time save. While you're waiting for the boss RP to start, you obviously are doing another pack. So we're doing the Ravager here. You do have to be a little bit careful with this Ravager, just because he can definitely get Giga Bolstered, but obviously you just see me pull... I'm putting everything into him, but I'm obviously keeping my normal AoE rotation. I'm just targeting him all the time. So obviously my primary Ice Lances and Icicles are always going to this. You don't really need to use any defensives for the ambushes if you get them at the start. The only time you really need to be using defenses is if you get the ambushes once he starts getting enraged. The way you bait the ambushes is it goes on whoever's the farthest player away. So you kind of want to decide whether that's a healer or you. You can LOS them as well. Both bridges there are LOS spots on. You just literally need to go around the corner. You see our priest is now running back to the bridge. And you'll see them LOS it. You basically just hide. There's this little corner here. You just hide in either one of these. This also exists on this side, but you just hide behind these and you'll LOS the vicious ambush. And he doesn't do the jump. You hear my glorious NCS music in the background of this too. We did decide, so we did this on a 24 earlier, but we ended, or a 25, but we ended up breaking the 25. We decided that we were going to let a orb hit him on the very first one, which we just did. The reason you do that is because it desyncs his Arcane Fissure and his Mana Bomb. If you don't desync it, you basically get an overlap at around the 2-minute mark. That will basically one-shot anyone without like massive defensives. The way that I plan every single one of the mana bombs is it depends on what CDs I have at the time. This first one I still had Mirror Image and Barrier, so I kind of just used those. I didn't really plan on soaking that orb, but that kind of just spawned on me. So obviously go into Barrier and then Mirror Image. I wasn't really worried about that first one, like I said. Later on, there'll be ones that you are pretty worried about. I like using Alter Time. I like going from Blink into Alter Time. I just get the little shield from Blink and take the damage and just Alter Time back. You will only have Alter Time for every other one. You saw Mana Bombs are going out right now, and Mana Bombs seems to be a cast that goes out every 25 seconds. And since Alter Time is a 50-second cooldown, you'll have it for every other one. So my strat again for this one, you saw I Alter Timed where I was when I was at full health. I blinked to a corner, and then I Alter Time back. Obviously, that just keeps the Mana Bomb circles out of the way. I was very scared of that. I almost just died to that frontal, but we won't discuss that. Lay on my hands, tried to assassinate me. Obviously, I also very much enjoy Ice Flows for this fight, because as you see with the Arcane Fissures, I never have to stop casting. Again, same thing as always, same thing as before. I Alter Time when I'm at full health. I blink out, get the little shield, alter back, full health. You see it chunks you for about 75% of your health, so you do obviously need some heal during it, because you take, I think it's 3 ticks before the bomb actually explodes. So you do need some assistance during it, but... For this one, I didn't know that I was actually going to get a 4-piece proc shield from her priest. Since I had just soaked an orb, and I didn't know if I was going to get healed, I ended up ice blocking it. I ended up obviously not needed it because you see my health, but when you ice block the mana bomb, it immediately goes off. That was also a very sus clear there. I basically was running into melee to go clear it, and they missed like 3 times. Which obviously would have bricked the key. Same as before. I have a big shield for this one, so I'm not too worried about my health. Obviously, if you get topped up right beforehand, or if you have a priest or anything like that right before, it's obviously better for something that puts like an absorb shield on you, because you know, absorb is obviously very good for these than hots that you can't really tell where your health's gonna be at. But obviously, I screwed up the Alter Time there. I blinked after the mana bomb actually went off, so not great, but for this one I didn't have Alter Time up, so I used Barrier and Mirror Image. Obviously, if you don't have these up, if you don't have Alter Time up or Ice Block, you obviously have Greater Invis too. Mage is one of the better survivable classes for that, especially since I believe it's magic damage. So your Arcane Warding in your talent tree actually does help with the damage for that. We do decide that we're also going to skip this as well, so... One very good thing to know here, as it turns out, your mirror images actually do pull threat while you're in invis, but they don't pull threat on your group. And somehow I still have one mirror image up, so I'm not exactly sure what was going on, but you know, whatever's going on right there, you know, it's okay. Again, with the Ravager packs, especially during bolstering weeks, you do want to be basically full single targeting them. Obviously, using Ice Blood Death Snare on these big packs once they actually get grouped. I'm using flurries without using frostbolt to shadow them, just because it is mass AoE. So this one, since the Ravager was pretty bolstered, he got bolstered I think 4 times as this was going off. I saw a lot of these mobs were gonna die. I did end up alter timing, which is needed. As you saw, I got chunked. You can alter and then immediately just alter back, and you'll be, you know, full health. But now at this point, it's becoming an LOS time. This is now a 8 bolstered Ravager, which we're now doing the same strat we did for the other one. We're LOSing it.
He almost has more health now than when he started.
Obviously, normal area rotation here. You can interrupt Mana Void, you can interrupt Mystic Blast. Yeah, the Ravager is fine. Until it gets bolstered, and then it seemed like Springs started to actually take the bait. But it was fine with any of us taking the Ravager when they weren't bolstered. It literally did like 20% of our health. Like it was no big deal whatsoever. Also, I'm very sus. I don't like doing this. I don't like having range stacked for the deadly winds. Just personal preference, because it gets really dicey. There's literally there's a chance that literally just both of you die. Like now that happened, Springs is kind of just screwed here. I do, Escort. Yeah, I have a guide video. So you just type exclamation guide, and it'll link you to the guide video. At least I hope that's a guide video link. Dude, you guys are just giga AoE patters. I swear. I have no clue how... I know Feral with whatever it's called, the AoE... Dude, I got so screwed there. Okay, so the really bad part with running Blink is shown in this exact scenario. I started casting a Frostbolt, and since Blink is on the GCD and Shimmer isn't, I literally couldn't blink out. And then you see me... Look at where... The thing is, look at where my dead body is. How is my dead body over here? Yes, I do click... I do click Icy Vein Suna. I used to click a lot more, but I have been scolded. Also, I'm not taking B-Res here because I would much rather have B-Res for the boss in case Springs or someone dies. How can you tell something's cast on you with default plates? You cannot. You incarn resed me? You incarned to get a... You incarned to prowl to res me? But yeah, you cannot tell. The only way you can tell if someone's casting on you with default plates is telling on their direction. That's the only way you can tell. So like that's how I tell on Wisemari, the first boss of Temple. The mob will be obviously be looking at you when he's casting his Hydra Lance. Other than that, there's no real way to determine when something's casting on you, other than looking at where they're facing. That voice was fucking so dumb. Obviously, something like Plater or something does that. It'll tell you who it's casted on, but I don't have Plater. What did you not have Shadow Mode for? Oh, for the... Wait, what did you not have Shadow Mode for? Did you use Shadow Mode as an offensive for the birds? To get another... To get back in cat form, to get back in the stealth cat form? Yeah, I knew you were going to say use Shadow Mode Rake for damage. Okay, so for the Deafening Screech, you need to plan CDs. You need to plan defensives for not everyone, but since we're going to 4 stacks, you basically need to plan defensives. So for the first one, you don't need anything for it. Obviously, you can have barrier up if you want, but there's no real need for it. It does, well, as you saw, it did 25% of my health. So there was, I had to cancel my cast. I have no real way to cancel my cast when I'm running Ice Flows other than either turning around or hitting escape, which is both kind of sus. So I think I ended up using escape for it, but... Again, using the min-maxing for shifting power, using your Frostbolt Flurry into 1 Ice Lance into shifting power, since shifting power benefits from Winter's Chill, but doesn't actually consume the proc. Now for this Deafening Screech, the second one I used Barrier and Mirror Image for, the third one I'm using G-Invis for, and then the fourth one we're rallying, but I'm gonna Ice Block it. The way you can use with Ice Block is it both doesn't it both gets rid of your debuff and makes you not take damage from it. All right, you say I have a keybind for my pot. I'm getting rid of that keybind now. What even is that keybind? Control G. Again, for the you saw for this. This was the fourth one. This is the one they're supposed to be rallying on. They did rally. I Ice Block it. I got rid of the buff, and I didn't even get a stack. As I have no control keybinds that I actually use. Actually, I use these two. I use my health pot, health stone, but again, the first Screech you don't need to use any defensives for. That one did 50% of my health, so it definitely hurts, but you survive with no defensives. I especially like Ice Flows for this portion of the fight. So I normally like the healer doing the last goal so that they can decide when they actually want it or not. So I'm typing here, you do the last one while I'm casting Ice or Frostbolt. So now this is the second Screech coming up. The second Screech. I didn't have G-Invis backup, so I'm going to be using Mirror Image and Barrier. You see, it does 50% of my health. And now I'll have G-Invis back up for the fourth. We actually decided as a group that since we probably wouldn't have Rally back up for the fourth one, we were just going to be doing 4 then 3. So we needed to make sure that we actually had these haste orbs. Again, the first one I didn't use any defensives for. And now I have the haste buff for 20 seconds. And now this is the second one. The second one, I had no defenses rolling other than my current barrier. So I decided to alter time it so that I just go back to full health. You can alter time for every third one because the Deafening Screech is a 20-second cooldown, so it happens every 20 seconds. Obviously, you're not going to have it for every other one because it is 20 seconds. And alter time is 50, so... We lost our heal here, but... Wait, I didn't realize our tank died. Sus. Alright, so now we realize that we're kind of tight on time. So we're basically decided we're going to do, like, almost all of it. Our tank also released here, which kind of also set us back because we were planning on rezzing it. Our healer also released, so... That was, we were expecting to just res them over there and then run over here. So we kind of improv'd this pull. Which wasn't great, but it worked out. Fortunately, we had a really good pat here on this Skitterflies. Obviously, like I said, this group has no comms, so I kind of just did this improv. If you polymorph the lead Skitterfly, or use any form of CC for the lead Skitterfly, the other Skitterflies kind of follow it. So I polyed it out of the way, knowing that our tank and healer were going to be coming from the other direction. And obviously they were going to be having all the aggro. Here I noticed that there were a bunch of mobs also targeting our healer, so I was going back to Frost Nova them to make sure our healer didn't die. Because if our healer got meleeed by all those, especially with the poison debuff, they were gonna die, which was obviously not good. Also, a fat RIP to my my Frozen Orb and Blizzard over here. Also, I love my frame. It isn't this way for me. I guess it is for stream though. The quality just drops to shit in these pulls because there's so many mobs. Also very odd. Somehow we pulled one Skitterfly in the other pack. I can't even pause because it's shit quality. There's 2 Skitterflies just petting around while we have one of them in the pack. We're not really sure how we pulled one and didn't pull the other 2. But, you know, just Blizzard things, I guess. I almost died there because of that volcanic. Also, in these packs, you should be basically full focusing the Skitterflies if you can, because the only thing, the Lashers, the tank should be able to deal with the Lashers doing damage to them. But if the Skitterflies, their agitation is basically they have their own sort of like bolster to them, their agitation cast. And then also during bolstering week, if they get Giga and have both their agitation stacks and bolstered like Giga high. Also, I think my Frozen Orb pulls that pack. Oh, it doesn't. Fantastic. This mob was triple bolstered and had 5 agitation stacks and just absolutely murdered Springs. So, would definitely recommend focusing the Skitterflies down. Yeah, this was kind of a time loss here. The tank didn't know that he didn't grab these other 2 Skitterflies, which was rather unfortunate because it basically makes us have just a 2-pull, which is obviously not good for time. And at this point, 10:30 basically leaves like 3-ish minutes for the boss. Because you really only need 7 minutes for the last area, or around 7 minutes. 7 minutes is basically if you're not pulling anything in a boss. Basically, every minute you chop off is the amount of packs you either need to pull into another group or pull into the boss. So I think we actually ended up being about 6 minutes when we finished this boss, which means we ended up pulling a pack into the boss. Which there is something that happened in that pack that I have not had happen in an AA pit before. So I'll kind of go over what that was, and however, there's not really a way to replicate it. So here, obviously, Frozen Orb just blizzard your AoE as much as possible. I like baiting the branch out of melee, so that melee don't ever have to move from the Ancient, because the branch will always go. I'm not sure exactly if it's on a ranged or if it's on the farthest person away, but it seems to always be on me as long as I'm not in melee. So my assumption is it's on the farthest person away. Thank you for the follow, Valen. I think I died to this Germinate. I know I die in this pull. Burst forth, you want to try and have some defensive rolling, whether it's barrier or mirror image or something. So for these, I do actually end up using Frost Nova. Not totally recommended, but I had already basically lost Icy Veins at this point, and so I was basically just going for full damage. I did it again here. The only time that I would ever recommend doing Frost Nova is if you are basically have 2 or more orbs out at a time. Again, at this point, you're basically focusing the Ancient Branch. You want to make sure you actually get the circle to clear your debuff before Germinate goes off. So I did actually Lust here. I was using Shifting Power rather aggressively because I wanted to make sure I got Lust off before our group needed it. Because we were only going to get, obviously, 1 more Lust left in the rest of the dungeon, which meant we were going to get it for the boss, which as long as I use Shifting Power aggressively, it means I'll get it in another, like, 4 minutes and 12 seconds from this moment, which means 4 minutes left in the key, which would most likely be either the start of the boss or very close to the start of the boss. Again, baiting the branch, so it's not a melee, so melee can have full uptime on the boss, and interrupting the healing touch. Especially as a ranged, it's pretty much always your priority unless you have a paladin tank to interrupt the Ancient Branch, so that melee don't have to run out. Using Shifting Power to make sure I'm going to get Time Warp back up. Obviously, my timer is going to be a little short, so at this point, we have a little under 7 minutes left. We're basically deciding whether we're going to pull into the boss or not. On these packs, you want to make sure you're interrupting Arcane Missile. That's really the only thing you need to interrupt. Arcane or Astral Bomb, something you don't really need to interrupt. You can do damage with it by walking into the pack. And obviously, again, in AoE, you want to be using Flurries without your Frostbolt Flurry combo. So just be sending Flurries on its own. And you only obviously sending Flurries when you don't have Fingers of Frost procs or your Blizzard. At this point, it's taking us like a minute a pack. We know that we basically have 2 more packs, or at least 2 more packs left. Again, we need to make sure we're interrupting Arcane Missiles. Unfortunately, all of us interrupted that same Arcane Missile, and there's 3 Arcane Missiles going on in this pack, which is definitely scary. And as you see here, I got the Astral Bomb. It actually does damage to the mobs. As you see, I go from the 2.45 to almost 3 mil. What up, Valentima? So obviously, again, AoE rotation here. Blizzard all the time. I am prioring Ice Nova over my Fingers of Frost procs here for one of 2 reasons. I wasn't at Icy Veins, so I knew I wasn't going to actually overcap on the Fingers of Frost. And at the time, I only had 1 Fingers of Frost. So I knew if I used 1 global to use Ice Nova, followed by the Ice Lances, I would get 1, because I'm running time manipulation, I would get Ice Nova back faster, and also the fact that I wouldn't be wasting any Fingers of Frost procs. Okay, so this is the pack that I want to discuss what actually happens with it. So we're deciding that we have to bring this into boss because we're obviously short on time. We can't do this on its own and then boss. Again, missiles is the important cast here that we need to kick. I'll pause the video when it gets to the point that I'm talking about. Alright, so this is the part that I want to discuss. So the Ethereal Restorers cast this thing called Celestial Shield. Celestial Shield basically is a 100k shield, and it gives their ally 50% increased haste. The only thing is this doesn't appear to scale with key level. I've never actually spell stolen this because it's always getting like insta killed the second it gets casted. I actually got very lucky because this pull we're pulling them into the boss, and so people actually aren't focusing these ads yet. So I actually got the Celestial Shield spell stolen. You see how small of a shield this is? So I target the mob that it's on, and now I have a 30-second 50% haste buff, which was very large considering I don't have Icy Veins and I don't have Time Warp at this time. So I basically, it doesn't show in my actual haste numbers right now, but as you can tell, my cast speed is a lot faster than it would be normally at the 20%. So unfortunately, it does drop off basically immediately here. So. And now that we did pull the mobs into the boss, it's obviously very good prio for both me and our warrior. So we're basically having full AoE at the time. Obviously I'm single targeting the boss, but obviously I can't help any of my cleave. But obviously very good for me keeping both Blizzard and okay. I'll pause to describe what was happening there. But like I was saying, it's very good in this AoE because I can keep Blizzard and Frozen Orb up at all times, so obviously free boss damage while also getting more CDR. At that point in time, I realized my file had expired. So I went to look in my bag to get a file, and then remembered that you can't file while in combat. So I just didn't have a file on for the entirety of this last fight. So that's quite the oof. But yeah, we'll continue. One thing that I do recommend trying to min-max, at least on this boss, is this little debuff happens anytime you get hit by any of the mechanics on this boss. And what that does is it gives you a damage buff. I don't remember if it's 5 or 10% every time. But if you get hit by any of the orbs, if you get hit by energy bomb, and he also just does a random AoE sometimes that just hits everybody. I would try and maximize the amount of stacks you have without killing yourself, obviously. On this boss, basically, Astral Breath and Power Vacuum are both one-shots. Especially on Tyrannical, and especially on a 24 key. The only thing that won't be will be getting hit by the little orbs. The orbs aren't going to be one-shots. So if you need to min-max, I would try and get hit by the orbs if you know there's not going to be any damage coming out. So now that I have 2 energy bombs, 2 stacks, I should. It's good practice when you have 2 to get to the edge of the room, which I'm doing here. Because sometimes when he does his random AoE attack, that'll just hit people. Unlucky, I did actually get an energy bomb here, so it doesn't really matter. But whenever your 3rd stack happens, which on here it happened because I ice blocked, it drops with the little pool, which shoots the little orbs out. And now I think here I'm realizing how close our timer's actually going to be. I'm kind of just seeing at how much damage we're doing per second with how much time we have left. So I'm going to I think I actually end up trying to get hit by the orbs, knowing that I won't die from them. Because I'm assuming they all do the same amount of damage that just did, so it does about 70% of my health. I did just flurry there without the frostbolt because I was getting icy veins back up soon, which I knew I was going to get another proc, so I kind of just didn't want to waste a flurry charge. And now again, I have 2 charges, so I'm trying to stay near the edge of the room as possible. We're also trying to game Thundering as much as we can, especially with the 2 damage buff. I'm trying to keep it on as much as possible. Obviously, I get another energy bomb, so I'm moving towards the outside of the room. I ice block. Obviously, at this point in time, the timer's obviously going to be very tight. We have 25 seconds left and 2%. We obviously are close on damage here, but we got it. So the main thing that happened there not the main thing that happened there. The tech that I wanted to talk about was the Restorer doing the Celestial Shield cast. Like I said, it will basically get insta-destroyed if you're not actually paying attention to it. It's also very hard to pick the mob that it's casted on. I also don't think you can see the target mob. I'll have to find out. Oh, you actually can see the target mob. Never mind. So that's actually beneficial for me then. I can actually target this mob immediately. But yeah, the Celestial Shield is something you can spell steal. I didn't have it in my spell steal video because I never really saw it because it just immediately got destroyed. And it also, in the MDT, it doesn't really seem like it was something that could be spell stolen. But obviously it can. It's something you just have to pay attention to. But it's not really going to happen too often, so I really wouldn't worry too much about it. But yeah. That was we timed it, the Algeth'ar with 20 seconds left, and you see our overalls. I definitely had a little bit lower overalls because I'm obviously a lot more single target focused. I obviously did a lot more in the boss damages, so if you saw the boss fights, that's kind of just what I'm spec'd into. But yeah, that's it for the commentary for the 24 Algeth'ar.